So the first week, I remember it was really cold. This was in January. One thing you should know about Polish food is that it's great. There's a lot of really fresh produce, like the apples, the berries, peaches, all that stuff just puts us to shame kind of because it's really fresh and organic and you can buy it from people on the street wherever you are. And I think their cuisine in general is like pretty hearty, pretty fresh, a lot of potatoes. It can be a little heavy sometimes, but not quite as heavy as some other regions. So make sure you know what you're eating. One time we were over at the house of a couple that we were teaching, and they said, "Hey, would you like some flaki?" And I said, "Sure, that sounds good." I have no idea what that is, but they brought out the soup, and I thought it was good, so I just ate the whole thing. And then later on, I was at a restaurant with another friend who took us out to lunch, and I ordered flaki because I thought, "Oh, I had that before; it was good." And after I finished the whole bowl of the soup, he said, "Do you realize you just ate intestines?" And I thought, "Oh my gosh, I thought those were noodles." Like, I'm embarrassed to tell this story now, because like you really should be able to know what you're eating. But I don't know whether my taste buds weren't sufficiently developed or what. Anyway, so make sure you know what you're eating. But the food is delicious. There's a lot of really amazing things that I wish we had here. But the currency is the zloty, and it's usually like 3 to 1, although it fluctuates a lot to the US dollar. And I mean, I got ripped off maybe more than once, like exchanging money. So just make sure you're getting a good rate. Check your phone before you before you take someone's bid. And I just think it's really an accessible place. If you get online, you can find out how to get around and stuff like that. Visitors to Warsaw should definitely visit the Old Town. It's really beautiful. It's beautiful old churches. And also in Warsaw, there's a great museum. It's called the Uprising Museum. The Warsaw Uprising was in the middle of World War II, actually towards the end of World War II, when the Poles kind of went against the Nazis right before the Russians invaded. There's a lot of heroic things that happened. It's a neat museum. And then everyone who thinks of going to Poland thinks of like the concentration camps. And those are, that's worth seeing. It's kind of hard to see, but if it's something that you feel like you should learn more about, I think it's definitely worth the visit. Kraków, that's like a really beautiful town, and a beautiful market center, and cool shopping. Poland's a really interesting place because its history has been, so many different layers of rulers and different cultures that have kind of inhabited the same place. So like in Warsaw, for instance, there's an old town, which is like Polish architecture. It was rebuilt after the war, and it's really, really beautiful and kind of that picturesque European, but specifically a Polish feel. And then there's large parts of the city that have been built since 1980, 1990. They kind of look like New York, skyscrapers. And then there's lots of the city that is these Soviet-style blocks. They're called Khrushchevki, because Khrushchev, the Russian leader, was the one that kind of implemented these block-style cheap economy housing, and they're everywhere. And it's just like a huge cement apartment complex with dozens, maybe hundreds of apartments inside, and they're pretty ugly from the outside, in my opinion. But they're making improvements, and lots of them were like gray in the past, but the Poles have kind of painted them all sorts of bright colors. So yeah, there's a lot of different interesting architectural patterns that kind of intersect. I feel like the peanut butter is better in the United States. What I liked to buy in Poland was ties. I mean, like a lot of countries, Polish culture like wants to support their own names, and so most people name their children Polish names. There might even be some sort of like a list, I don't know. But you meet a lot of like similar names, and they're often names of saints or other like Christian or Catholic figures. Like there's Andrews and Luke's and Matthews and John's, and those versions in Polish are like Andrew is Andrzej, Matthew is Mateusz, Luke is Łukasz, John is Jan. Women's names also come from the Bible, like you'll meet Magdalenas or Maria. Maria is it's a kind of a sacred name for a lot of Polish Catholics, and they don't say it as casually as we might. Now, Polish is a really beautiful language. So I remember I went to high school in Germany, and one time we were at McDonald's with a bunch of friends from our school, and three girls who were all sitting at the table answered their phones at the same time. And there was a Japanese girl, a Dutch girl, and a girl of an unknown nationality to me. And they all started speaking, and I mean, every language is beautiful, but the language of this girl that I didn't know where she was from it was really cool. And I just asked her after she was done with the call, what were you speaking? Where are you from? She was in my class, but I'd never spoken to her about it. And she said, Poland. And so ever since then, it's a really neat language, and it sounds, I can't describe it. But learning Polish was a total blessing in my life. I'm so glad that I was able to learn it. It's a Slavic language, so it's based on a 7-case system. So where we have nouns, then verbs, then like another noun, like an object, subject, verb, object. Sometimes Polish doesn't follow that same structure. Sometimes it's more flexible than that, and there's the words themselves change instead of the order, if that makes sense. It's really a beautiful and poetic language, and the literature is amazing, and it really works well for poetry. Like, it's really simple to rhyme in Polish, so there's some amazing poetry.